I handed her fries. Now she growls at anyone who dares speak to me. The plasma bolt seared past Alex Ryder's left shoulder, close enough that she could smell the burnt fabric of her jacket. She dove behind a stack of shipping containers, her heart hammering against her ribs as more shots peppered the metal around her. The acrid smell of scorched steel filled the air, mixing with the distant hum of Helios Prime's atmospheric processors. "Damn it, Rickard," she muttered under her breath, checking the charge on her plasma rifle. Empty. Of course it was empty. The betrayal had come so suddenly she'd barely had time to grab her gear, let alone properly arm herself. 3 days ago, life had been simpler. 3 days ago, she'd been just another freelance courier running routine cargo between the outer rim stations. 3 days ago, she hadn't met Luna. The memory flashed through her mind even as she reached for the combat knife strapped to her thigh. The sharp-featured face with russet fur, golden eyes that seemed to hold ancient wisdom, and that moment of pure, unbridled joy when she'd tasted those fries for the first time. Another bolt of energy crackled overhead, bringing Alex sharply back to the present. She could hear heavy footsteps approaching her position, at least 3 sets, maybe 4. Rickard's mercenaries were closing in, and her options were rapidly dwindling. "Alex Ryder," a voice called out, rough and mechanical through a voice modulator. "Come out peacefully, and we might let you live long enough to explain where you hid the tech." Alex gripped her knife tighter. The tech they were referring to was nothing more than standard navigation arrays, hardly worth killing over. But Rickard had been convinced she was smuggling something more valuable, something that would make him rich enough to buy his own fleet. His paranoia had finally gotten the better of him. She pressed her back against the container and tried to think. The cargo bay had limited cover, and she was outnumbered at least 3 to 1. Even with her military training, those weren't an odds she liked. She needed a miracle. The miracle came in the form of a low, menacing growl that seemed to vibrate through the metal deck plating. "What the hell?" one of the mercenaries started to say, but the words were cut off by a strangled scream. Alex risked a glance around the edge of her cover and had to suppress a grin. Luna stood at the far end of the cargo bay, her russet fur bristling, lips pulled back to reveal sharp canine teeth. She wore the fitted leather armor of her people, reinforced with metal plates at strategic points, and carried a curved sword that gleamed dully in the artificial light. Her golden eyes were fixed on the mercenaries with predatory intensity. "Stay back!" one of Rickard's men shouted, swinging his rifle toward the Philidian warrior. "This doesn't concern you, alien." Luna's growl deepened, and she dropped into a combat crouch that Alex had learned to recognize. The Philidian's tail lashed once, twice, and then she was moving. Alex had seen Luna fight before, but it never failed to amaze her. The Philidian moved with fluid grace, her sword singing through the air as she closed the distance to the first mercenary. But this time, Alex noticed something different in Luna's technique. A particular series of strikes that seemed almost ritualistic in their precision. Later, Luna had explained that among the Red Shadow tribe, combat was not merely about survival, but about honor. Each movement carried meaning. Each strike was a statement of intent. When Luna fought to protect someone she considered pack-kin, her blade work became a form of deadly poetry, telling the story of bonds that transcended species. The first mercenary barely had time to fire a wild shot before Luna's blade found the gap in his armor, sliding between his ribs with surgical precision. As he fell, Luna's free hand traced a brief symbol in the air, a gesture Alex had learned was a prayer for the fallen, even enemies who had chosen their fate through violence. The second mercenary tried to get a beat on her, but Luna was already spinning away, using her first victim's falling body as cover. She rolled behind a support beam, her movements so fluid they seemed choreographed. Alex took advantage of the distraction to move to a better position. She could see Rickard now, standing near the bay's main entrance with 2 more men. His face was pale beneath his receding hairline, and his hands shook as he gripped his sidearm. "Kill them both!" he screamed. "I don't care what it takes." But his remaining mercenaries were already backing toward the exit, their confidence shattered by Luna's display of lethal efficiency. One of them made the mistake of looking away from the Philidian for just a moment, long enough for Luna to emerge from behind the support beam like a hunting cat. Her sword caught him across the thigh, dropping him to one knee. The strike was precise, designed to disable rather than kill, another aspect of Philidian honor that Alex had come to understand. Luna fought to protect, not to slaughter, and even in the heat of battle she maintained that distinction. Before the wounded mercenary could recover, Luna's pommel strike to the base of his skull sent him sprawling unconscious to the deck. The last mercenary threw down his weapon and ran. Alex emerged from cover, her knife still in hand, and advanced on Rickard. The man's eyes darted between her and Luna, who was now standing over the fallen mercenary, her sword still drawn and her golden eyes fixed on him with unmistakable threat. "Alex, listen," Rickard said, raising his hands in what might have been a gesture of surrender, if not for the weapon still clutched in his right fist. "We can work this out. There's enough profit in this deal for all of us." "What deal?" Alex demanded, keeping her distance. She could feel Luna moving to flank Rickard, silent as a shadow. "Running navigation arrays to the mining colonies? That's hardly a fortune, Rickard." "Don't play dumb with me," he snarled, some of his desperation transforming into anger. "I know what you're really carrying. The Xenarch technology, the neural interface matrices. Do you have any idea what the military would pay for intact samples?" Alex blinked. "Xenarch tech? Rickard, I haven't run anything even remotely." Her words were cut off as Rickard raised his weapon, but Luna was faster. The Philidian's sword whistled through the air, and Rickard's sidearm went spinning away, his hand opened by a precise cut that left him screaming. "The next one takes your head," Luna said in her accented English, her voice carrying the kind of quiet authority that made even hardened mercenaries take notice. "Speak truth or speak no more." Rickard clutched his bleeding hand to his chest, his face now gray with pain and fear. "The consortium," he gasped. They said you were carrying prototype tech from the Kepler station raids. Neural interfaces that could link human and alien minds directly." Alex felt a chill run down her spine. The Kepler station raids had been classified military operations, and the technology Rickard was describing, if it existed, it would be worth more than some planetary government's annual budgets. "I don't know anything about any neural interfaces," she said slowly. "My cargo manifest shows standard nav arrays, power cells, and some medical supplies, nothing more." "Then someone's been lying to someone," Luna observed, her sword still held ready. Her nose twitching slightly, scenting the air. "But I smell deception here, thick as musk in breeding season." Alex glanced at her unlikely partner. Luna's people, the Philidians of the Red Shadow tribe, were known throughout the Outer Rim for their enhanced senses and combat prowess. If Luna said she smelled deception, there was usually good reason to believe her. "Where did you get this information about my cargo?" Alex asked Rickard. He hesitated, and Luna took a step closer. The threat was unmistakable. "Davies," he said quickly. "Marcus Davies from Shipping Control. He said he'd seen the real manifest, the classified one. Said the nav arrays were just a cover story." Alex knew Davies. She'd worked with him on dozens of runs over the past 2 years. He'd always seemed reliable, professional. The possibility that he was feeding false information to pirates like Rickard was disturbing on multiple levels. "Luna," she said quietly, "can you sense if he's telling the truth now?" The Philidian tilted her head, studying Rickard with those unsettling golden eyes. "His scent speaks of fear and pain, but not of lies. He believes what he says." Alex nodded and looked back at Rickard. "Who else knows about this supposed technology?" "Just Davies and my team," Rickard said. "And now you're all dead anyway. The consortium doesn't leave loose ends." "What consortium?" But Rickard's expression had changed, a look of desperate cunning replacing the fear. "Ask Davies," he said, "if you live long enough." He triggered something in his left hand, a small device Alex hadn't noticed. The cargo bay's lights flickered, and somewhere in the distance, she heard the distinctive whine of charging energy weapons. "Luna, we need to go," Alex said urgently. "Now!" The Philidian was already moving, sheathing her sword with practiced efficiency. "The ventilation shafts," she said. "Too small for humans in armor, but we can fit." Alex grabbed her gear bag and followed Luna toward the bay's far wall, where a maintenance grate led into the station's service tunnels. Behind them, she could hear the sound of approaching footsteps and shouted orders. Luna wrenched the grate open with her claws and slipped inside with feline grace. Alex followed, pulling the grate closed behind them, just as the first of Rickard's reinforcements entered the cargo bay. The ventilation shaft was cramped and poorly lit, but Luna moved through it with confidence, her natural night vision giving her a significant advantage. Alex followed the sound of her movement in the occasional whispered direction. As they crawled through the narrow passage, Alex found herself thinking about the conversation she'd had with Luna the day after their first meeting. The Philidian had been struggling to understand human social customs, particularly the casual nature of Alex's gesture with the fries. "Among my people," Luna had explained, sitting cross-legged on the floor of Alex's quarters aboard the Wandering Star. "The sharing of food carries deep significance. When a warrior offers sustenance to another, it creates what we call kishara, a bond of mutual protection and loyalty." "But I was just being friendly," Alex had protested. "I saw you were hungry, and I had more than I could eat." Luna's ears had flattened slightly, a sign of confusion among her people. "This makes the gesture even more meaningful. You acted not from obligation or ritual, but from what humans call kindness. Such spontaneous generosity is rare, even among my own kind." She had gone on to explain that in Philidian society, Kishara bonds were sacred. They transcended family ties, tribal allegiances, even species barriers. Once formed, such bonds were considered permanent, lasting until death or formal dissolution through elaborate ceremony. "So when I shared my fries with you," Alex had said slowly, "I accidentally initiated some kind of lifelong partnership?" "Not accidentally," Luna had corrected gently. "Your spirit recognized something in mine, just as mine recognized something in yours. The food was merely the means by which this recognition was expressed." Now, as they navigated through Helios Prime service tunnels, Alex was beginning to understand the true depth of Luna's commitment. The Philidian wasn't just protecting a casual friend. She was honoring a sacred bond that her people had maintained for thousands of years. After what felt like an eternity of crawling through the station's bowels, they emerged in a maintenance area deep in Helios Prime's industrial section. The air here was thick with the smell of recycled atmosphere and machine oil, and the constant thrum of the station's power generators made conversation difficult. Luna checked the corridor beyond the maintenance room with typical Philidian caution before motioning Alex forward. "We cannot stay here long," she said. "They will search every section." Alex nodded, her mind racing. "We need to find Davies. If Rickard was telling the truth, Davies is either being played or he's part of whatever's going on. And if he's part of it," Alex's hand moved instinctively to her knife, "then we get some answers before we decide what to do with him." They made their way through the service corridors, avoiding the main thoroughfares where Rickard's people might be searching. Luna's knowledge of the station's layout proved invaluable. The Philidian had spent several weeks aboard Helios Prime before she and Alex had first met, and her warrior's training had included memorizing potential escape routes. But as they moved deeper into the station's administrative section, they encountered an unexpected obstacle. A security checkpoint had been established at the junction leading to shipping control, manned by station security rather than Rickard's mercenaries. "They're checking identification," Alex whispered, observing the checkpoint from behind a corner. "Standard security, not consortium people." Luna's nose twitched as she scented the air. "I smell fear, but also confusion. They do not know why they have been ordered to seal this section." Alex considered their options. They could try to bluff their way through the checkpoint, but that would require identification documents they might not have. They could find another route, but that would take time they didn't have. Or, "Luna, how do you feel about creating a distraction?" The Philidian's golden eyes gleamed with anticipation. "What kind of distraction?" Alex pointed to a fire alarm panel mounted on the corridor wall. "Emergency evacuation protocols. If we trigger that, they'll have to unseal the checkpoint to allow evacuation." Luna nodded and moved toward the alarm panel, but as she reached for it, the sound of approaching footsteps made them both freeze. Someone was coming down the corridor behind them, moving with purpose. Alex pressed herself against the wall and drew her knife, while Luna melted into the shadows with predatory grace. The footsteps belonged to two figures in civilian clothes, talking in low, urgent voices. "Said the package was supposed to be delivered 3 hours ago," one of them was saying. "If Ryder doesn't show up soon." She'll show, the second figure interrupted. Harrison's intelligence says she doesn't even know what she's carrying. She'll walk right into the trap. Alex's blood ran cold. General Harrison, that was a name she recognized from her military service. If he was involved in whatever conspiracy was unfolding, the implications were staggering. The two figures passed their hiding spot without noticing them, continuing toward the security checkpoint. Alex could see now that one of them carried a briefcase that might contain the real reason for all the security measures. "We follow them," she whispered to Luna, quietly. The Philidian nodded and began stalking the two men with the silent grace of a hunting cat. Alex followed, staying close enough to hear their conversation, but far enough back to avoid detection. "Neural interface prototypes were more than anything we've handled before," the first man was saying. "If the consortium can reverse engineer the technology—" "When," the second man corrected. "When they reverse engineer it. Dr. Chen's research was too valuable to let the military keep it locked away." Alex felt another chill. Dr. Chen had been one of the leading researchers in human-alien neural interface technology. If she was involved in this conspiracy— The two men approached the security checkpoint, and Alex could see the guard recognizing them. They passed through without being searched, but not before Alex caught a glimpse of the identification badges clipped to their jackets. Consortium Industries, the same organization Rickard had mentioned. Luna touched Alex's shoulder and pointed toward an air vent near the ceiling. It was large enough for them to fit through, and it appeared to lead directly over the security checkpoint. They climbed into the ventilation system and crawled carefully along the ductwork until they were positioned above the guards. Through the grating, Alex could see the entire checkpoint layout and hear the guards' radio chatter. "Lockdown protocols remain in effect until further notice," a voice was saying over the radio. "No one in or out of shipping control without Level 7 authorization." Luna gestured toward another vent opening that led past the checkpoint. They could bypass the guards entirely by staying in the ductwork, but it would be a tight squeeze and any noise would alert the security team below. They moved with painstaking care, Alex following Luna's lead as the Philidian demonstrated the kind of stealth skills that had made her people legendary. Every movement was calculated, every breath controlled, until they were past the checkpoint and emerging into a service area near shipping control. But as they dropped from the vent, Alex realized they weren't alone. A figure in a maintenance uniform was standing near the corridor entrance, but something about his posture and the way he carried himself suggested he wasn't just a regular technician. Luna noticed it too. Her hand moved toward her sword, but the figure turned before she could draw it. "Ms. Ryder," he said quietly, "I've been waiting for you." Alex tensed, ready to fight or run, but the man raised his hands to show he was unarmed. "My name is Dr. James Chen," he said. "I think you are carrying something that belongs to me." The name hit Alex like a physical blow. Dr. Chen was supposed to be dead, killed in what appeared to be a random mugging. But here he was, very much alive and apparently connected to the conspiracy that was unfolding around them. "You're supposed to be dead," Alex said, keeping her distance. "A necessary deception," Chen replied. "When I discovered that someone in the military was selling my research to private interests, I had to disappear before they could eliminate me permanently." Luna stepped forward, her enhanced senses focused on the man. "He speaks truth," she said quietly. "I smell no deception." "The neural interface prototypes," Chen continued, "they're hidden in your cargo containers, disguised as standard navigation arrays. I put them there myself, using Davies as an unwitting intermediary." Alex felt pieces of the puzzle clicking into place. "So Davies doesn't know what he's really shipping?" "Davies knows only that certain high-priority cargo needs special handling," Chen said. "He's been told it's classified military equipment, which isn't entirely untrue." "And Rickard?" "Was fed false information by General Harrison's people. They wanted to use him to eliminate you once the cargo was delivered, removing any witnesses to the transaction." Alex stared at Chen, trying to process the implications. "So I've been carrying stolen military technology without knowing it, while being set up to be murdered by the same people who are selling it." "In essence, yes." Luna's growl was low and threatening. "These humans show less honor than scavengers." Chen nodded grimly. "Which is why I need your help to expose them. The evidence is all in the shipping control computers, but I can't access it without triggering security protocols." "What kind of help?" Alex asked. The kind that involves getting close to Davies and convincing him to access the classified files. Once we have proof of Harrison's involvement, he was interrupted by the sound of alarms beginning to wail throughout the station. Emergency lights began flashing, and automated announcements started echoing through the corridors. "Security breach in shipping control," the voice announced. "All personnel report to emergency stations." Alex looked at Chen. "That's not good, is it?" "That means they know we're here," Chen said grimly. "We need to move fast." They reached the shipping control section without further incident, but Alex could see the problem immediately. Davies' office was now surrounded by security teams, and there were at least a dozen armed figures moving through the area. But worse than that, Alex could see Davies himself through the office windows. He was sitting behind his desk with his hands zip-tied behind his back, and there was blood on his face. Colonel Mitchell stood beside him, along with two other figures Alex didn't recognize. They appeared to be interrogating Davies, and from his body language, it wasn't going well for him. "There," Luna whispered, pointing to a ventilation grate that led directly into Davies' office. "But I smell others. 2, maybe 3 humans. Recent scent." Alex frowned. Davies usually worked alone, especially during the night shift. The presence of additional people suggested either a late meeting or something more sinister. "Can you tell if one of them is Davies?" Luna closed her eyes and breathed deeply through her nose. "Yes, his scent is familiar. But the others?" She opened her eyes, and Alex could see concern in their golden depths. "They smell of weapon oil and fear sweat. Soldiers, perhaps, or mercenaries." Dr. Chen had gone pale. "If they have Davies, they'll have access to all the shipping records, including the real manifest for your cargo." Alex considered their options. They could wait for the office to clear, but that might take hours they didn't have. They could try to find another way to get to Davies, but that might alert whoever was with him. Or they could go in now and hope they could handle whatever they found. "How many weapons did you hear when we were in the cargo bay?" she asked Luna. 6 energy weapons, at least 3 different types, but also blades. I heard metal sing against metal when the one I marked tried to draw his knife. Alex nodded. That matched her own assessment. "So they're armed with both projectile and close combat weapons. What about the people in Davies' office?" Luna tilted her head, listening. "I hear low voices but cannot make out words. Movement suggests they are relaxed, not expecting trouble. 2 heartbeats are slow and steady. The third," she paused, "faster, nervous." "Davies is scared," Alex concluded. "That could mean he's being coerced, or it could mean he's guilty and worried about being caught." "Only one way to find out," Luna said, her hand moving to her sword hilt. Alex nodded and began working on the grate. It came away silently, and she peered through the opening into Davies' office. She could see the man himself sitting behind his desk, his usually neat appearance disheveled and his face pale. 2 other figures stood near the window, their backs to the ventilation shaft. Alex couldn't see their faces, but their posture and the way they carried themselves screamed military or mercenary training. One of them wore the kind of tactical vest that could stop small arms fire, and both had sidearms visible at their hips. "Davies," one of them was saying, "we need to know exactly what Ryder was told about her cargo. Every detail." "I already told you," Davies replied, his voice tight with stress. "I gave her the standard manifest. Navigation arrays, power cells, medical supplies. Nothing about any prototype technology." "But Rickard got his information from somewhere," the second figure said. "And you're the only one who had access to both the real and cover manifests." Alex felt her blood run cold. So there were 2 manifests, and Davies did know about whatever technology was really being shipped. That meant either he was being used without his knowledge, or he was actively involved in whatever scheme was unfolding. "Look," Davies said, leaning forward in his chair. "I don't know where Rickard got his intel, but it wasn't from me. I've been handling Ryder's shipments for 2 years. She's reliable, discreet, and she doesn't ask questions. Why would I burn that relationship for some half-baked piracy scheme?" "Because," the first figure said, turning around, "the technology on this shipment is worth more than everything you'll make in the rest of your career." Alex's breath caught in her throat. She recognized the face. Colonel Sarah Mitchell, formerly of the Earth Defense Force, now working as a private security contractor for various corporate interests. If Mitchell was involved, this was bigger than simple piracy. Colonel, Davies said, and Alex could hear the desperation in his voice. I swear to you, I haven't told anyone about the neural interfaces. The cover story has been maintained exactly as ordered. Then explain how Rickard knew enough to organize an ambush, specifically targeting Ryder's ship, Mitchell demanded. Someone leaked the information, Davies. And if it wasn't you, she let the threat hang in the air, but Davies was already shaking his head. There's someone else with access, he said quickly. Dr. Chen from the research division. She's been asking questions about shipping schedules, manifest protocols. Maybe she... Dr. Chen is dead, the second figure said flatly. Killed in what appeared to be a random mugging 3 days ago. Very convenient timing. Alex exchanged glances with Luna and Dr. Chen. 3 days ago was when they'd first met, when Luna had been hungry and alone at the food vendor. The timing couldn't be coincidental. Dr. Chen's face had gone ashen. They think I'm dead, he whispered. That gives us an advantage. Luna leaned close to Alex's ear. We should leave, she whispered. This trap grows deeper with each word. But Alex was fascinated despite the danger. The pieces were starting to come together, forming a picture that was both complex and terrifying. Someone was using her as an unwitting courier for stolen military technology, and they were willing to kill anyone who might expose the operation. The question now, Mitchell was saying, is whether Ryder knows what she's really carrying. If she does, she becomes a liability. If she doesn't, she's still a liability, the second figure finished. She's seen too much, knows too many of the players, and now she's got that alien warrior protecting her. Luna, Mitchell said, and Alex heard a note of professional interest in her voice. Third-rank warrior of the Red Shadow tribe. Combat veteran with over 40 confirmed kills. Interesting that she's attached herself to a human courier. Alex felt Luna tense beside her. The Philidian's reputation had clearly preceded her, which could be either an advantage or a serious complication. Orders? The second figure asked. Mitchell was quiet for a moment, considering. Find them both, she said finally. The alien might be useful for interrogation purposes. Her people have strong concepts of honor and debt. If she's truly bonded to Ryder, she'll do anything to protect her. And after we get what we need? Clean up, Mitchell said simply. All of it. Davies, Dr. Chen was just the beginning. This operation has too many loose ends. Davies' face went white. Colonel, please. I've been loyal to the project from the beginning. Everything I've done has been exactly as ordered. I know, Mitchell said, almost gently. But loyalty isn't enough anymore. Too many people know pieces of the puzzle. The only way to protect the project now is to eliminate everyone who might talk. Alex had heard enough. She began backing away from the grate, motioning for Luna and Dr. Chen to follow. They needed to get out of the shipping control section before Mitchell's people expanded their search. But as they retreated through the maintenance shaft, Alex's foot caught on a protruding bolt. The metallic clang echoed through the shaft, and conversation in Davies' office stopped abruptly. What was that? She heard Mitchell say. Maintenance shaft, the second figure replied. Could be routine systems cycling. Check it. Alex, Luna, and Dr. Chen moved as quickly as they dared through the cramped space, but Alex could hear footsteps approaching the grate behind them. Luna reached a junction in the shaft system and paused, her enhanced hearing allowing her to track their pursuers' movements. They've found the entry point, she whispered. 2 of them are following. The female stays with the frightened man. Alex nodded and pointed down the left branch of the junction. It led toward the station's power generation section, an area with enough ambient noise to mask their movements, but also enough hazards to make pursuit dangerous. They crawled through the shaft as quickly as possible, the sound of pursuit growing closer behind them. Alex could hear Mitchell's voice over a communicator, calling for additional security teams to seal off the maintenance areas. The shaft opened into a large chamber filled with humming power converters and distribution panels. The air was hot and thick with the ozone smell of high-energy systems, and the constant electrical hum made conversation nearly impossible. Luna dropped from the shaft opening with liquid grace and immediately moved to secure the room's exits. Alex followed, landing awkwardly and having to catch herself against the support beam. Dr. Chen emerged last, his face flushed from the exertion of crawling through the narrow passages. How many ways out? Alex asked, raising her voice over the electrical noise. Luna pointed to 3 different doorways. Service tunnel leads to the docking bays. Emergency stairs go up to residential levels. Maintenance corridor connects to life support systems. Dr. Chen moved to one of the power distribution panels and began working on its access controls. If I can tap into the station's main computer network from here, he said, I might be able to download the evidence we need without having to get back to Davy's office. Alex considered their options as Dr. Chen worked. The docking bays would give them access to ships, but they'd also be heavily monitored. The residential levels would provide places to hide, but they'd be easy to trap there. The life support systems. Life support, she decided. If we can access the atmospheric processing controls, we might be able to create enough confusion to get off the station. Got it, Dr. Chen said, pulling a data storage device from the panel. Communication logs, personnel files, cargo manifests, everything we need to prove Harrison's involvement. Luna nodded and led the way toward the maintenance corridor. Behind them, Alex could hear the sound of their pursuers emerging from the ventilation shaft. The corridor was narrow and lined with pipes carrying various atmosphere-related systems throughout the station. Luna moved with sure-footed confidence, but Alex had to be more careful on the slick metal flooring. Dr. Chen struggled to keep up, his civilian conditioning showing in the way he breathed heavily after just a few minutes of movement. They reached the life support control center without being detected, but Alex could see the problem immediately. The access panels were locked down with military-grade security systems, far beyond anything she could bypass with her basic technical skills. Can you cut through the lock? She asked Luna. The Philidian examined the panel with professional interest. Possible, but loud. And once damaged, they will know exactly where we've been. Dr. Chen stepped forward. I might be able to help with that. My security clearances should still be valid. They think I'm dead, remember? He approached the panel and entered a complex access code. The system beeped once and the locks disengaged. My research required access to station-wide systems, he explained. Part of the neural interface project involved monitoring atmospheric composition for test subjects. Alex weighed the risks. Creating a distraction might buy them time to escape, but it would also confirm their location to Mitchell's people. On the other hand, doing nothing meant they'd eventually be cornered and captured. Before she could decide, Luna's head snapped up, her ears twitching. Someone comes. Fast approach, trying to be quiet. Alex drew her knife and moved to a position where she could watch the corridor entrance. Luna pulled her sword and took a position on the opposite side of the doorway, her golden eyes fixed on the approaching threat. Dr. Chen stepped back toward the control panels, his face pale with fear. A figure in tactical gear appeared at the corridor entrance, moving with practiced stealth. Alex recognized him as the second man from Davy's office. He held an energy pistol in a professional two-handed grip, and his movements suggested extensive combat training. He never saw Luna coming. The Philidian struck from the side, her sword slicing through the air in a precise arc that would have taken his head off if he hadn't thrown himself backward at the last instant. Instead, the blade opened a long gash across his chest, slicing through the tactical vest like it was made of paper. But this mercenary was better trained than Rickard's men had been. Even wounded, he managed to get his weapon up and fire a shot that came dangerously close to Luna's head. The energy bolt scorched the wall behind her, filling the air with the smell of superheated metal. Luna rolled to the side, using the room's equipment as cover, and came up in a new position. The mercenary tried to track her movement, but she was already moving again, her enhanced reflexes allowing her to stay ahead of his aim. Alex took advantage of his focus on Luna to circle around behind him. Her knife found the gap between his armor plates, sliding between his ribs with surgical precision. He dropped to the deck with a strangled gasp, his weapon clattering away across the metal flooring. More will come, Luna said, cleaning her blade on the fallen man's uniform. We cannot stay here. Alex nodded, but an idea was beginning to form. Luna, how well do you know Philidian technology? Specifically communication systems? Well enough, why? Alex gestured toward the life support panel. If we can't disable their systems, maybe we can use them. Can you patch into their communication network? Luna studied the panel with renewed interest. Perhaps, but what purpose would this serve? Information warfare, Alex said. If Mitchell is running some kind of black operation involving stolen military technology, there will be records, communication logs, evidence. If we can access their systems, we might find proof of their crimes, Luna finished, and perhaps allies who have been deceived as I was deceived about your true nature. Alex blinked. What do you mean, deceived about my true nature? Luna's ears flattened slightly, a sign of embarrassment among her people. I believed you to be simple courier, looking for friendship and companionship. I did not understand that you were warrior in disguise, fighting hidden battles against those who would prey upon the innocent. Luna, I'm not a warrior in disguise. 3 days ago, I really was just a simple courier looking for... She was interrupted by the sound of approaching footsteps and Mitchell's voice over a communicator. Target acquired in life support section. All teams converge on that position. Later, Alex said. Right now, we need to get out of here. Dr. Chen stepped forward, holding up his data storage device. I've got what we came for. The evidence is solid. Communication logs between Harrison and the consortium, payment records, even assassination orders. This will be enough to bring down the entire operation. Luna's claws sparked against the access panel as she worked to cover their digital tracks. Almost there. The panel reset itself, erasing any evidence of their access. Luna's hands moved over the controls with surprising familiarity, her enhanced senses allowing her to navigate the system by sound and feel as much as sight. Emergency ventilation shaft, Luna said, pointing to a grate near the ceiling. Leads directly to the docking bays, but the passage is dangerous. High-pressure systems, superheated coolant lines. Better than facing Mitchell's entire security team, Alex said. Luna boosted her up to the grate, then leaped up with feline grace. Dr. Chen required more assistance, but between Alex and Luna, they managed to get him into the shaft system. The passage was hot and filled with the rushing sound of various atmospheric systems, but it was also large enough for them to move through without crawling. They made their way through the sweltering passage, following Luna's nose toward the docking bays. Behind them, Alex could hear the muffled sound of Mitchell's teams discovering their handiwork in the life support control center. The shaft opened into a service area adjacent to docking bay 7, where Alex's ship was berthed. But as they emerged from the ventilation system, Alex could see that the area was already under surveillance. 2 security guards stood near her ship's loading ramp, and she could see at least 1 sniper position on the upper level. Trap, Luna observed unnecessarily. Alex nodded, studying the tactical situation. Her ship represented their best chance of escape, but reaching it would require getting past professional security forces in an environment with limited cover. Dr. Chen looked exhausted and frightened, but he was holding up better than Alex had expected. What now? He asked quietly. Now we improvise, Alex said. Can you create a distraction? She asked Luna. The Philidian's golden eyes gleamed with predatory anticipation. What did you have in mind? Alex pointed to the power distribution panel that controlled the docking bay systems. Cut the main power lines, emergency lighting will kick in, but it'll be dim enough to give us an advantage. Then we go in fast and hard. Luna nodded and moved toward the power panel, her sword already in hand. But as she raised the blade to strike, Alex heard a familiar voice behind them. I wouldn't do that if I were you. They turned to find Colonel Mitchell standing in the service area entrance, her sidearm trained on Alex. 2 more tactical team members flanked her, their weapons ready. Blood seeped through a makeshift bandage around her left wrist, but her grip on her weapon was steady. Ms. Ryder, Mitchell said conversationally, you've been very difficult to track down. Not difficult enough, apparently, Alex replied, her hand moving slowly toward her knife. Don't, Mitchell warned. I'd prefer to take you alive, but that's negotiable. Luna had gone perfectly still, her body coiled for action. Alex could sense the Philidian's readiness to strike, but the tactical situation was poor. 3 armed opponents with good positions and clear fields of fire. Dr. Chen stepped forward, his chin raised with more courage than Alex had expected. Colonel Mitchell, I presume? I have some questions about your involvement in the theft of my research. Mitchell's eyes widened slightly. Dr. James Chen, I was told you were dead. Reports of my death were greatly exaggerated, Chen said dryly, but your attempts to steal military technology and sell it to private interests are very real. You're going to come with us, Mitchell continued, all of you. There are some questions that need answering, and some arrangements that need to be made. What kind of arrangements? Alex asked, stalling for time. Mitchell smiled, but there was no warmth in it. The kind that ensure this operation continues without further interruption. Your alien friend here is going to help us with that. Luna's lip curled back in a silent snarl. I serve no human except the one who showed me kindness. You have shown only treachery. Loyalty is admirable, Mitchell said, but it can be redirected under the right circumstances. Pain, for instance, is a remarkable motivator. The threat was clear, and Alex saw Luna's pupils dilate with rage. The Philidian was preparing to attack regardless of the tactical disadvantages, and Alex knew that would likely get them all killed. Wait, Alex said quickly. Colonel, let's be reasonable about this. You need information. I need to stay alive. Maybe we can work something out. Mitchell raised an eyebrow. I'm listening. The data I downloaded from your communication logs, Alex said. You want it back, right? Along with any copies I might have made? Among other things, yes. Alex slowly reached into her jacket and pulled out her data storage device. Here's the deal. I give you this. You let Luna and Dr. Chen go. They're not part of your operation. They don't know anything about the technology theft beyond what they've learned in the last few hours. There's no reason to involve them. Luna made a sound of protest, but Alex cut her off with a look. And in return, Mitchell asked, I'll cooperate with your investigation, answer your questions, help you tie up whatever loose ends you think need tying up. But Luna and Dr. Chen walk away clean. Mitchell considered this for a moment. And what makes you think I won't just take the bata and kill you all anyway? Because you're smart enough to know that killing a Red Shadow warrior will bring her entire tribe down on this station, Alex said. And you're professional enough to honor a deal when it serves your purposes. It was a desperate bluff, but Alex could see Mitchell weighing the options. The colonel was clearly intelligent and experienced enough to understand the potential consequences of murdering a tribal warrior. Interesting, Mitchell said finally, but I'm afraid your understanding of the situation is incomplete. She nodded to one of her team members, who raised his weapon toward Luna. You see, Ms. Ryder, this isn't about tying up loose ends anymore. This is about sending a message. The consortium doesn't tolerate interference with its operations, and it certainly doesn't tolerate stolen data. Alex felt her heart sink. Mitchell had no intention of negotiating in good faith. This had been a trap from the beginning, designed to capture them all and make them disappear quietly. But Luna had apparently reached the same conclusion, because she moved without warning. The Philidian warrior seemed to explode into motion, her sword flashing in the dim light as she closed the distance to the nearest tactical team member. Her blade caught him across the throat before he could bring his weapon to bear, and she was already spinning toward the second target before the first man hit the deck. This time, Luna's combat style was different, more aggressive, more lethal. Alex realized that the Philidian had been holding back in their previous encounters, using non-lethal techniques when possible. But Mitchell's threat to use torture as a motivator had triggered something primal in Luna's warrior nature. Mitchell fired, but Luna was no longer where the shot was aimed. The Philidian rolled behind a support pillar, using the station's architecture to break up the clear fields of fire that Mitchell's team had established. Alex took advantage of the chaos to draw her knife and charge Mitchell directly. The colonel was good. Her sidearm came around toward Alex with professional speed and precision. But Alex had been in enough close-quarters combat to know that sometimes the only way to survive a gunfight was to turn it into a knife fight. Dr. Chen, to his credit, didn't freeze or run. Instead, he grabbed a heavy tool from a nearby maintenance cart and swung it at the remaining tactical team member, catching the man across the shoulder and disrupting his aim. Mitchell's shot went wide as Alex tackled her, driving them both to the deck in a tangle of limbs. The colonel was stronger than she looked, and she fought with the kind of brutal efficiency that spoke of extensive combat training. Alex managed to get her knife to Mitchell's throat, but the colonel drove her knee into Alex's solar plexus, sending her rolling away, gasping for breath. Mitchell came up with her sidearm ready, but Luna was there first. The Philidian's sword took Mitchell's gun hand off at the wrist. The colonel's scream echoed through the docking bay, and Alex could hear alarms beginning to sound throughout the station. Security teams would be converging on their position within minutes. We must go, Luna said urgently, cleaning her blade again. More will come, and we cannot fight all of them. Alex nodded, still trying to catch her breath. She retrieved the data storage device from where it had fallen during the fight and checked to make sure it was still intact. Dr. Chen helped her to her feet, his face pale but determined. "My ship," she gasped. "If we can reach it." Luna was already moving toward the docking bay entrance, her enhanced senses scanning for additional threats. The two guards near Alex's ship had abandoned their posts when the shooting started, probably to call for backup or to avoid being caught in the crossfire. They ran across the open bay toward Alex's ship, a modified cargo hauler called the Wandering Star. Alex's hands shook as she worked the entry codes, but the loading ramp lowered without incident. "Get to the bridge," Alex told Luna and Dr. Chen as they rushed up the ramp. "I need to run the startup sequence." Luna nodded and headed for the ship's cramped control cabin, while Alex sealed the loading ramp and activated the internal security systems. Dr. Chen followed Luna, clutching his data storage device like a lifeline. The Wandering Star wasn't much to look at, but she was fast and maneuverable with enough firepower to discourage casual pursuit. "Alex," Luna called from the bridge. "Security teams approaching the docking bay. At least 2 squads, possibly more." Alex reached the bridge and threw herself into the pilot's seat, her hands flying over the control panels. The ship's systems came online with gratifying speed, and she could feel the engines beginning to generate thrust. "Docking clamps released," she announced. "Luna, Dr. Chen, strap yourselves in. This is going to be rough." The Philidian secured herself in the co-pilot's seat with practiced efficiency, while Dr. Chen found a jump seat and fumbled with the safety harness. "Where do we go?" Luna asked. Alex considered their options as she lifted the Wandering Star off the docking bay deck. Helios Prime's security forces were already scrambling to intercept them, and she could see patrol ships beginning to move into blocking positions near the station's primary shipping lanes. "We need to get this data to someone who can use it," she said. "Someone with enough authority and integrity to investigate General Harrison and shut down the consortium's operation." "And who would that be?" Dr. Chen asked, his voice tight with stress as the ship shook under acceleration. Alex smiled grimly as she pushed the ship's engines to maximum acceleration, heading for the outer system where they could safely engage the faster-than-lighted drive. "I know a guy." The next few hours were a blur of evasive maneuvers and tense hyperspace jumps as they worked their way toward the military installation at Kepler Station. Alex had served there briefly during her military career, and she knew that Admiral Chen, Dr. Chen's brother as it turned out, was known for his integrity and his willingness to investigate corruption wherever he found it. "My brother and I haven't spoken in years," Dr. Chen admitted, as they traveled through hyperspace. "He disapproved of my decision to work on neural interface technology, said it was too dangerous, too prone to misuse." "Sounds like he was right," Alex observed. But as they traveled, Alex found herself thinking about the strange partnership that had developed between her and Luna. 3 days ago, she'd been a simple courier with no idea that she was being used as a pawn in a massive conspiracy. Now she was a fugitive carrying evidence that could bring down a corrupt general and expose a technology theft ring that threatened the security of multiple worlds. And through it all, Luna had stood by her side, fighting with lethal skill and unwavering loyalty. The Philidian warrior had risked her life repeatedly to protect someone she'd known for less than a week, all because of a moment of shared kindness over a plate of fries. "Luna," Alex said as they prepared to drop out of hyperspace near Kepler Station, "when this is over, what will you do? Will you return to your tribe?" Luna considered the question carefully. "My people believe that bonds forged in battle are the strongest of all. You have shown me honor and courage, and we have faced death together. Such things are not easily forgotten." "So you'll stay?" "If you will have me," Luna said simply. "I find that I have grown attached to human customs, and to one human in particular." Alex smiled, remembering how this all started. "I might be able to get used to having a partner who can handle herself in a fight, as long as you promise not to growl at every client who wants to negotiate prices." Luna's ears twitched with what Alex had learned was the Philidian equivalent of a grin. "I make no promises. Some humans deserve to be growled at." They dropped out of hyperspace near Kepler Station, and Alex began transmitting the identification codes that would get them a meeting with Admiral Chen. As she worked, she reflected on how much her life had changed in just 3 days. She'd started as a courier looking for a simple meal and a moment of peace. She'd shared her fries with a hungry stranger and somehow gained a warrior's loyalty. discovered a massive conspiracy, fought for her life against trained killers, and found a partnership that might last the rest of her life. And it had all started with French fries. "Alex," Luna said, monitoring the communication channels, "the Admiral responds. He will see us immediately." Alex nodded and began the approach to Kepler Station's docking bays. Whatever happened next, she knew she wouldn't be facing it alone. Luna would be there beside her, ready to growl at anyone who threatened them and fight with lethal skill if necessary. It wasn't the partnership she'd expected to find, but it was the one she needed. And as the wandering star settled into its assigned docking bay, Alex found herself looking forward to whatever adventures their unlikely alliance might bring. After all, she still had a lot to learn about Philidian customs, and Luna still had a lot to learn about human ones. That process of mutual education promised to be interesting, challenging, and probably dangerous. Just the way Alex liked it. The station's security teams were waiting for them as they disembarked, but these were Admiral Chen's people, not consortium mercenaries. Alex handed over the data storage device and began explaining everything that had happened since her first meeting with Luna 3 days earlier. As she spoke, she could see Luna studying the human military personnel with professional interest, her golden eyes cataloging potential threats and escape routes with typical warrior caution. But when one of the younger officers made an appreciative comment about Philidian combat techniques, Luna's ears perked up with what Alex was learning to recognize as pleased surprise. Maybe the cultural exchange wouldn't be as difficult as she'd feared. "Ms. Ryder," Admiral Chen said after reviewing the evidence, "you've uncovered something that goes far beyond simple technology theft. This data suggests a conspiracy that reaches into the highest levels of Earth's military command structure." Chen stepped forward. "Admiral, I know we've had our differences, but—" "James," Admiral Chen interrupted, his stern expression softening slightly, "I'm glad you're alive, and I'm sorry I didn't listen to your concerns about the neural interface project." The brothers embraced briefly, and Alex could see years of tension beginning to dissolve. Sometimes it took a crisis to remind families what really mattered. "What happens now?" Alex asked. "Now we investigate," the Admiral said. "Carefully, quietly, and thoroughly, and we're going to need your help to do it." Alex glanced at Luna, who nodded slightly. The Philidian warrior had made her choice clear. Wherever Alex went, Luna would follow. "What kind of help?" Alex asked. Admiral Chen smiled, and Alex could see some of his brother's intelligence in his eyes. "The kind that involves getting close to General Harrison and his consortium allies. The kind that might require a courier with an unusual partner and a talent for getting into trouble." Luna's lips pulled back in what was definitely a grin this time. "Trouble is what we do best," she said. Dr. Chen looked between Alex and Luna with newfound respect. "You know, my research was originally designed to help different species understand each other better. I never imagined it would be used for theft and murder. But maybe," Alex said thoughtfully, "we can use it for its original purpose. If we're going undercover to expose this conspiracy, having a human Philidian team might give us advantages that Harrison's people won't expect." Luna nodded enthusiastically. "Among my people, there are ancient stories of humans and Philidians fighting together against common enemies. Perhaps it is time for those stories to become reality again." Admiral Chen studied them both with keen interest. "You know, this partnership of yours might be exactly what we need. Harrison won't expect a courier and a tribal warrior to pose a serious threat to his operation." "When do we start?" Alex asked. Admiral Chen pulled up a holographic display showing the outer rim sectors where Harrison's consortium was known to operate. "There's a convoy leaving for the Vega system in 3 days. Intelligence suggests it's carrying another shipment of stolen military technology. We need someone to get close to that convoy, gather evidence, and identify the other players in this conspiracy." Alex studied the mission parameters. It would be dangerous, requiring them to infiltrate a criminal organization while maintaining their cover identities. But it was also exactly the kind of challenge that she and Luna had proven they could handle. "One condition," she said. "If we're going to be partners in this, Luna needs to understand human law enforcement procedures. And I need to learn more about Philidian customs. If we're going to work together long-term, we need to understand each other completely." Luna's golden eyes brightened with anticipation. "I would welcome such education. And perhaps you could teach me more about human food. I find myself curious about these desserts you mentioned." Alex laughed, feeling a sense of anticipation she hadn't experienced in years. "Admiral, I think you've got yourself a team." Outside the station's viewports, the star beckoned with the promise of new adventures, new challenges, and new opportunities to prove that some bonds, whether forged over shared food or tested in battle, were strong enough to overcome any obstacle. Luna's hand found Alex's shoulder, a gesture of support and partnership that needed no translation between their species. Whatever came next, they would face it together. And somewhere in the back of Alex's mind, she made a mental note to always keep a supply of fries on hand. You never knew when they might come in handy for making friends with dangerous aliens, or keeping the ones you already had happy. The mission briefing could wait until tomorrow. Tonight, Alex decided she was going to take Luna to the station's best restaurant and introduce her properly to human cuisine. After everything they'd been through together, it was the least she could do. Besides, she was curious to see how Luna would react to dessert. Something told her that their partnership was just getting started.